Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's session of Tech in Ghana 2020, the virtual edition. This panel is going to discuss digital commerce in Africa, accessibility and inclusion. And just to recap, Tech in Ghana is the only UK Ghana platform of its kind. This event normally happens twice a year in Ghana and in the UK. But this time around, because of COVID, we are doing a virtual edition. And the theme for this year's edition is the power of collaboration, impact investment, and sustainability. So for today's session, I'm privileged to have very well-resourced people who are going to discuss the prevalence of digital commerce in Africa, how we can improve accessibility, improve inclusion with the goal of growing the economy. Feel free to put your questions in the questions section. And we're going to start with introductions, starting with Christabel, and we'll go around the panel, and then we'll get straight to the questions.
Hello, Kingsley. We lost you for a second, but I'm going to assume you want me to introduce myself. Okay. All right. My name is Christabel Dadzie. I work with the World Bank as a senior social protection specialist in the social protection and jobs unit. At the bank, we look at the jobs trajectory in line from the most vulnerable to essentially across the globe. So that's why we combine social protection, so helping the vulnerable, to jobs. And so my area of focus is really around youth employment issues, but also productive inclusion, giving sustainable livelihoods for people who are poor to help them kind of leap out of poverty. So my focus area today will really be on the social inclusion side of things, financial literacy, financial capability, reaching the poorest of the poor and leaving no one behind. I'm really looking forward to this. Thank you.
Thanks, Christabel. Maelis, you want to do your introduction?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here with these great panelists. I'm Maelis. I'm the Managing Director of the Catalyst Fund. And Catalyst Fund is a global accelerator for inclusive tech companies in emerging markets. So similar to Christabel, when we started, we're focusing on issues of financial inclusion and using fintech solutions to create what we call affordable, accessible, and appropriate solutions for underserved communities in emerging markets. But over our time, finance has become much more of an enabler and less of a vertical across several sectors to improve value offering and retain consumers in many sectors. So today, we're actually expanding our work and just recently announced the launch of a new accelerator program focused on inclusive digital commerce, supported by the Mastercard Foundation and run in partnership with MEST. And Kweku is actually also here with me on the panel. I can tell you more about it. And so for us, we're really focused on supporting the innovators in building the solutions that can improve the financial health of underserved and their lives in general. And we're also working, the flagship program is also supported by FCDO, so the UK government and JP Morgan Chase. So there's definitely a connection also with the UK and our work across the African continent. And we worked with 37 companies to date across our markets, but the majority of our portfolio is actually in Africa, about 70%.
Thanks, Maelis. David, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. My name is David Hutchful. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Bloom Impact. Bloom Impact is an online marketplace that basically matches SMEs, MSMEs, to finance from our financial partners. My partner and I set up Bloom Impact primarily to help small businesses get access to finance, and with the goal that getting access to finance allows them to grow their businesses and allows them to employ more people. So that's the link to employment. Bloom Impact, we've been running in Ghana and in Nigeria over the last 3 years, and we have over 15,000 small businesses that are currently on our platform. And over the last few years, we've been linking these businesses to finance from our financial partners, primarily banks. Apart from finance, we recognize that businesses do need a set of tools that can enable them to really kind of increase their capacity. And so within the Bloom Impact app, we do have a couple tools that are geared to towards helping a small business improve their business. So we have bookkeeping tools, we have tools that allow you to check your credit reports, and also we are beginning to look a lot more into how we support the commerce activities of the small businesses on our platforms. Another important aspect is sort of the financial literacy part. We think this again is an important aspect of growing small businesses, particularly within our context, and so that's something that we really support within our tools. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Henry, you want to go next? Sorry, Henry, can you hear me? You want to go next? All right, looks like Henry's connection is bad. Kweku, nice to join us. You want to go next and then we'll come later?
Sure. It's great to be with you all, my fellow panelists. This is a great subject, and I'm really happy to be joining you. I am Kweku Fleming. I work with MEST Africa, and MEST is an Africa-wide technology entrepreneur training program. It's an internal seed fund, and we have a network of hubs that offer incubation to technology startups in Africa. But what's interesting is that now MEST has taken a new path to not only focus on startups, but later stage companies. And my role within MEST is to really focus on how we can help to accelerate more established companies and then provide whatever kinds of services or supports can really help them to make a dramatic change in the marketplace places that they serve.
Good time so much. And just I'm actually a MEST alumni. So MEST really has been a program that has created so many great entrepreneurs and gives birth and more for the ecosystem. Henry, if you can hear me, I need your introduction so that we get right into the session. Henry, are you able to hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Great. So your introduction.
Awesome. All right. So my name is Henry Cobblah. I'm lead for Ahwenepa. So Ahwenepa basically is a marketplace for African-inspired products. Relatively, we're based in 5 different African countries. Currently, with over 17,000 small businesses running on our platforms, doing global distributions, focusing on small and medium scale markets in Africa. So the main idea is to promote African-inspired products. Relatively from what is more inspiring, made by Africans, for Africans, and for global use on our platforms. So leveraging on that, we sort of giving them the platform to be able to expand their businesses and grow their businesses from there. Currently, like I mentioned, we're based in 5 different African countries and looking at still expanding. Because the whole focus is to just make sure that there's one marketplace where everything African is just there. Also resourcing these small businesses with tools based in terms of handling their logistics for them, moving of the products. We're also looking at their financial inclusion as to how to build their capacity to be able to get financing, because we provide them with all the tools that makes their accounting prospects very easy on our platforms, that they could just walk into a bank and say, hey, I've been able to sell 5,000 products within this period, and they could basically from that accounting points from our applications, they could just be getting some better loans and other things which could help their businesses. And so, looking at that, it's one of the solutions that we think that it's helping people, and we're looking at growing it from there.
Great. Thanks so much, Henry. So I'm going to start with Kweku. So, in tech, every time and again, there are so many buzzwords being thrown around. there was a buzzword of AI, machine learning, big data, and now we're talking about digital commerce. Now, from a perspective of an ecosystem player like yourself, when we say digital commerce, what are we really talking about?
Okay, it's good, and it's really important to align on what it is we're talking about. When I hear digital commerce, I immediately think first virtual commerce, and I guess in this pandemic period, we've all gotten used to and understand how important virtual can be for our success. So I would change the digital to virtual just to provide definition. And then on the commerce side, commerce is we're really talking about exchanging value. So in my way of looking at digital commerce is we're bringing trade, products, goods, services from everywhere to the doorstep of the person in question, and vice versa. So it really makes an instant offering available anywhere in the world, ideally. So if we're exchanging value virtually, we're sort of removing time and distance from the equation of the interaction, and it really just completely opens a whole new world for buyers and sellers, and creates, ideally, platforms that can accommodate those here locally in Ghana to address a global marketplace. Now, in doing that, they can also better address their local marketplaces as well. So in an African context, in a Ghanaian context, digital commerce changes the game, it changes the playing field, and it offers a way to play and engage with both your local and a global marketplace.
Now, you spoke a lot about a virtual marketplace and all that. And Henry, you run Ahwenepa. Is Ahwenepa a digital commerce platform? Is it an e-commerce platform? What is your perspective on what Ahwenepa is and how it fits into the conversation around digital commerce?
Okay, so Ahwenepa basically is a digital marketplace. I mean, that's how we see it. But we basically also moving from that point to what we call the social commerce, which I would explain later, as to based on how we're looking at the transactions that we having on our platform. But just like Kweku mentioned, it's in that point where you're bringing sort of offline to online, and again now moving from online to offline. And so basically, most of these things that when you come to Ghana, you just have to hit Osu or any of the nicest places to get. You basically now have it on the doorsteps. You don't have to travel to Kenya, South Africa, Ghana to be doing a selection. You can just do that from your PC or from the mobile applications that we run, which makes it easier. I mean, it makes it comfortable for you to do selection. We have what we call the see now, buy now stuff, where you don't need to. You can sort of have virtual feel and look at most of these products that you could look at, and that makes it easier because when you're entering into stores, which is having to hold the shoe, feel how the shoe feels, and just wear it. This time we're just bringing it online, where it makes it easier for you to interact with the product and also to have a better perspective, where other users could also now give you a better perspective as to how these products, whether they've been purchased, gives you a better review of these as well. And so digital commerce goes way beyond just the point where you can see something online and buy now, which I mentioned, the social commerce now, where there's a lot of interaction around the product. And so it's not just about seeing something and just trying to buy the product on, but going way beyond that to interact with the product, to look at how people are faring with the product, feedbacks over a long period of time and short period of time. And that could help you make a better decision in terms of trading. On the other side, to the people that would be doing the trade, it gives them a better perspective of their commerce. I mean, in terms of the way they trade, adding what we call influence marketing to what they're doing, where it now has to be that they're just not putting the things in your shop and just sitting to waiting for people to come interact with them, but also getting out to throw out the product in the face of people, expressing emotions, the feel, the look at it. And so that gets way beyond just being digital and being on a PC or on a mobile application. It comes to it as an everyday life where you're living on virtually in the perspective of trade.
Great, great. So you spoke about a lot of things here, and I'll go to Christabel. So Christabel, all the things that Kweku and Henry have spoken about is based on the fact that we need to digitize how we do commerce. But then digitization comes from a point of literacy, how people know exactly what to do, how to do it, and how to convert that paper record into a digital record. From your work that you do with all these MSMEs and all that, what have you found out is the literacy gap? And are we really ready to help these people digitize? What are the bottlenecks in there that you've seen so far?
Great, thank you for the question. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Great. Let me start from the fact that we do not have a choice. At this point, we all have to embrace digitization, whether or not we like it. And so the question becomes, in doing that, how do you ensure that nobody's left behind? And that is where I kind of come into this discussion. And so like any, how will I call it, social benefit, you ensure that, you know, in my opinion, the internet and data should be a public good. Yes, people should pay for it, but access should be so easy and so cheap that everybody can come to it. So really, that's where we start from. And my friends here will know that I'm not a tech person whatsoever, but I come to it from the angle of poverty alleviation, right? And if we do really want to develop our country and our continent, then we need to speed up. From the World Bank, we've been having this discussion for, I want to say, the last 6-7 years around pushing the idea of digitization, making easy access and cheap access to technology. So that everybody can be a part of these discussions, so to speak. Now, when you talk to a lot of the micro and small, and let me end it at micro and small enterprises, you'll find that slowly people were embraced. And it was kind of like, okay, it's a good idea. I'm seeing it, I'm interested, but you know, counting my cash manually every day works before I go to bed and throwing it under my suitcase, you know. But once COVID hit, I think what it's done for us, like a lot of other pieces of development on the continent, is we become ahead of the game, whether we like it or not, right? So we have had to embrace the use of things like mobile money. The government of Ghana currently is really big on the digitization agenda, the interoperability agenda, making sure that banks are connected to mobile phones and all of that. Right, and so there's been, the good thing is the groundwork has been done to some extent to make access a bit simpler. The issue is that we have to speed up, whether we like it or not, 2-3 times faster to be able to be more inclusive. So what you find is that we have a major informal sector. What are we talking? 80% of our entrepreneurs are informal. So how do you reach the people who are informal? It's easy for you and I. You know, our addresses are taken, we are connected to some bank and all of that. But for those who are, you know, selling on the streets, let's be real, it's becoming a thing. There's way more people who are, you know, vendoring that way. How do we help them to embrace things like mobile money? The truth is, if I can do on a click of a button, it will be much easier for me. I was having a conversation with my brother who was telling me that during COVID, he literally, for, let's say, and I say during COVID like it's gone, but in Ghana, I mean, it's kind of gone. But for about 4 months, he never touched cash. That is where we need to head to, right? And if we can do it such that we don't know anything different, then we take it from home. A lot of the times in these changes, it starts from within the home and then into the business. And so it becomes a livelihood and a lifestyle, and then people can do that. So just to wrap up, to say that I do not believe that access is 100%. It's not even close. We can do way better. I mean, if you compare us and even our internet connectivity to, say, the East Africa, we have a little bit of a long way to go. However, mobile phone penetration has improved a lot lately, and I know the telcos are doing a lot to try and make that happen. All of that gives the access. But this conversation really ends around people who are above the poverty line. Those who are below the poverty line, then are kind of left behind. And I can come back and really drill in on how we've tried to help those. Let me let other people speak, and then I'll come back to that. Thank you.
Thanks, Christabel. So talk about people below the poverty line. David, you deal with such people on a daily basis, right? They always need money, but they have nothing to show. They just want the money to go do something with it. What is your experience dealing with these people who really are the crust of the retail economy, but for some reason they are so marginalized? What have you seen so far dealing with them, and how do you think you may be able to move them into a digital age?
Yeah, thanks. So we end up dealing with a lot of people who are below the poverty line and also slightly above the poverty line. But you would realize that if you look at the stats, over 80% of our business sector is informal, and a lot of the people below the poverty line lie within, almost 100% lie within this sector, right? And so even though they are you would say below the poverty line in terms of how much they may make at the end of the day, they are actively involved and really a big stakeholder group in what we'll call digital commerce now. Now, a lot of them, you have a couple people who are doing tabletop selling. They may have a very tiny container store. They may be hawking and all of that, right? And I think at this point it will be useful to kind of break down digital commerce in the sense that there are big platforms like Ahwenepa, which Henry has, but there are also really simple ways in which people are leveraging digital, right? And so, for example, the people below the poverty line, you find them using things like WhatsApp, right? Or using, if they've gotten onto Instagram or something, using that to try and sell, or even making simple phone calls to try and coordinate, getting access to products to sell, finding a market to go and sell. Right, and so they're using these digital means to bring the value they have to people, right? And for us, for example, at Bloom Impact, part of what we've done, a huge part of what we've done is we do notice that there are some of these. I mean, our app is a smartphone app, right? And so in some ways, it may eliminate some of these if you're informal and people below the poverty line. But we do find, I mean, of the 15,000 that we have, majority are informal, and which means majority of these guys, as Christabel pointed out, do have access to these kind of phones. And so then the next stage becomes, how do you make it simple enough that given the challenges they have, both economically and maybe in terms of education and literacy, for them to be able to use it? And so at Bloom Impact, we put a lot of effort into making the app really simple to use, right? The great thing about being a finance provider is that everybody wants money, right? If you look at the research, the top two barriers to digital commerce for, at least in Ghana, in Africa, actually, the first, obviously, is trust. Everybody wants things delivered to their house before they pay for it. But the second is access to finance, right? And so we see that when it comes, because people need money, they can very quickly. So what we found in terms of educational literacy is that, people may not be able to read and write, but they are quite numerate. And they're also willing to overcome the hurdle of the difficulty of the interfaces to do a transaction. So the easier that you make these UI interfaces, your process, your services, the easier it is for them, no matter their economic level, to be able to get onto the platform and be able to request. And for us, we found it to be a great sort of learning opportunity. Because when somebody comes to you for money, and we link with the banks, and so a lot of the criteria that we have are what the criteria of the banks will have. But what we have on our side with somebody going through our app is the time to educate them, to show them give them the reasons why they need to have XYZ, right? And so we're able to, as they use the app, we're able to give them educational points on why certain things are important, right? Why you need a guarantor, why you need collateral, what does this mean? And the way the app is set up, it helps you, for example, if you don't have financial literacy training and you think you need a loan of 10,000, maybe what you need is a line of credit, not a loan, right? And the app is able to kind of figure that out and let you know. And so at this point, the digital allows us to bring along people who may not be, due to their circumstances, may not be as literate or as ready for this ecosystem as we would anticipate. But in fact, they are ready to to transact. And again, I mean, getting money is a great motivator. So you can see people jump on, you can see people try, learn how to navigate the way, and the onus then falls on us to basically use that as I've mentioned, a learning opportunity to bring them up to speed in terms of what needs to be done. And maybe just to add a little bit onto the digital literacy part, what we found is that it's not only about there's the access part of it, and then there's also knowing about the platforms. But to be successful at the commerce part, the buying and selling, you still need sort of, if you will, a mindset of an entrepreneur, right? And a lot of people, especially young people we see coming, because they have the tech savviness, the digital literacy, they're able to jump on there and begin to start selling. But if you don't really have that entrepreneurial training, the runway becomes really short fast, because you run out of sort of the fundamentals that you require to leverage these tools to be able to, really kind of get to that next stage where you begin to employ people, you begin to expand your business. And that's where we find ourselves, right? So when we look at our platform, we start thinking, okay, how do we not only help you get access to capital, but also how do we help you basically acquire the skills that makes you run a good business? So bookkeeping, very accounting, simple things like that. And I'll quickly end that. On the flip side, because it's a marketplace, we have the banks on the other side. Now we're able to have conversations with the banks that say, listen, another barrier for digital commerce, obviously, is the product misalignment, right? And especially when it comes to financing. And so the banks have very few products that address this market. And so as we bring more people online, we're able to create a profile for them. We're able to show this to the banks to say, here's the gap. Right, you want to start giving loans from this because based on these risk factors, but you're using a lot of these digital platforms, and I think Henry, you spoke about that too. When people transact on your platform, you're able to show the banks that this person is doing this kind of business, even though they may not be able to show it in their bank account, right? If you look at their mobile money statement, they are doing business, right? So beginning to also change, if you will, the formal sector to really understand what's going on in the informal world. These tools that we're building allow for that sort of visibility and hopefully the alignment of products in terms of financial products for them as well.
Thanks, David. So, Maelis, you can hear me. So, David touched on a particular part where everyone needs money, right? Because it's retail, it's commerce, everyone needs money. Now, it's rare to find a fund that focuses on this very niche in industry where there are so many problems, you most likely lose your investment in that particular sector. I want to understand from Catalyst Fund perspective, what is it that you have seen in this particular industry, aside from the obvious fact that they run the economy? Why are you focused on this particular niche market, and what do you see as the potential for growth over time?
Great question, Kingsley. And we like to focus on niche markets that have the potential to explode. So I actually don't think this is as niche as you might think. But from our point of view, with the Inclusive Digital Commerce Accelerator, what we're trying to do is actually leveraging philanthropic capital to scale businesses that have the potential to reach many more of the informal micro and small enterprises that are currently not benefited from digital commerce. So for us, it's about expanding the overall ecosystem so that those MSCs can actually use these tools to improve their resilience. And the reason why we launched this program specifically was actually right after COVID-19, the COVID-19 pandemic hit. So we met with the Mastercard Foundation and we're having discussions on what we were seeing in terms of the impact of COVID on those businesses. And SMEs in Ghana have been incredibly hit by the pandemic, and most of them had to shut down. They lost 60% of their revenue. So we run surveys actually with SMEs and workers that leverage digital platforms, and saw really like the abysmal impact this had in Ghana as in other economies around the world. And in parallel, we also run some research actually in China, looking at digital SMEs there and how they were able to fare like during the pandemic. And we saw that those that were already selling online and digitally enabled were actually able to not shut down. In some cases, the revenues actually went up and not down. and we were able to access digital credit because of the financial history that was created through the data in the transactions that these SMEs have via their commerce activities, right? And that gave us, I think, like some understanding of what it can mean for many more of the informal SMEs, MSEs, to leverage these digital tools to improve their own resilience during and after the pandemic. So I think it's a trajectory. And for us, obviously, the work that we're doing is rooted in that belief. And so that's why we leveraged the experience that we had through our fintech fund, like over the past 5 years, and to launch this program focused on the acceleration and scaling of inclusive digital commerce platforms that can reach informal MSEs, so have products that are tailored to them, and making them more financially and overall economically resilient over time. So obviously, to do that, it's not easy. And so as many of you mentioned earlier, there's issues around trust, issues around creating solutions that really leverage the touch points that SMEs already have. And that's exactly what we want to help companies with. So on the one side, there's capital for sure. So we're going to give grants to these companies to really think through how they can better reach the segment specifically. But we're going to combine that with also venture acceleration support, which includes basically embedding experts from around the world, all of our markets, in product management, in UX UI research, in data science, and really work alongside these innovators so that we can reach, we have an ambitious goal of actually trying to reach 25,000 MSEs over 2 years period as these companies scale. So it's really, I think, the combination of that expertise and talent as well as capital that will allow us to make this work, and also involving ecosystems and value chain. So we're not doing this alone. Obviously, we're working with MEST as our core partner on the ground, who's also bringing that ecosystem expertise in Ghana. But we want to bring to the table also banks that can create, for example, financial products or fintech, proof of concepts on digital commerce rails. We're bringing on investors that can then provide the follow-on capital. We're bringing logistics providers, potentially, like all the players in the value chain that can fill the gaps that we're seeing, and anchoring all of that on research and evidence via this research that we're conducting right now. So it's niche, but I think the potential is there. And as you said, I think one piece of it is definitely the financial services to enable SMEs to really reap the benefits of digital commerce as well. So we're kind of looking at the problem from these two angles. Yeah, I think we lost Kingsley, did we?
No, I'm here. I'm right here.
Yeah.
Oh, you're here. Okay. I wasn't seeing you anymore. But yeah, that's exactly why we started this program.
Great. So I want to move on to the issue of accessibility, and mostly because of the new Africa Free Continental Trade Agreement that has been signed. And what that simply means is Africa is now literally a global village for commerce. Now, I'm saying this in the context that for people in retail commerce or for people in informal retail who are now moving to digital commerce, there are inherent challenges. Number one being logistics, number one being payment. So starting with Christabel again, what I want to speak to is how do we consciously prepare this industry to leverage on ACTA to be able to scale beyond Ghana? Because this is a real opportunity for them. How can we equip them to not only digitize for digitization's sake, but digitize with the goal of scaling beyond the country and ensuring that they have a wider market to be able to offer their products to?
Thank you very much. I mean, essentially, if ACTA is done right, it could be a game changer for the continent. I mean, we've all been pushing for regional integration, starting from all the way back to the OAU, turn to AU, ECOWAS, and all of this. But we've also seen limited movements in terms of the trade side of things. So it's very, very early days on AFTA, but the grandiose idea makes a lot of sense. And I think I hated that every other second we mentioned COVID, but fact, right? COVID showed us, if it showed us anything, it was that when your borders are shut, when the developed world is suffering more than you are, it may be time to start looking within, which is what ACTA helps us to do. Now, its governance for me is a major piece of whether ACTA will work or not, right? whether these governments will really allow the space for all of us to benefit. And I use the example of rice, right? Look at Nigeria. When Nigeria decided that everybody's going to eat made in Nigeria rice, they made some big investments in going against the imports that would come in, right? But think about it. Nigeria is huge, right? So if they can cover the rice industry to a certain extent, then Ghana can also cover beyond inside Nigeria, right? And then maybe Ghana can also cover cocoa, right? Let's use our comparative advantage, identify it, have a skill of who can do what, and not do it 100%, but for the most part say, okay, these two countries, so Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, we know are cocoa growing industries, you know, number 1 and 2 in the world. Why don't we leverage even on the continent side? So all of that will take governments agreeing on a scale of let's all benefit together by leveraging our comparative advantage. So that's one. But then you come down next to the people, right? Because it's going to be the private sector that is going to have to implement, really, and it's the engine of growth and provision of jobs, right? So then the enabling environments from within our countries and beyond for the private sector to do what they do. Then, as we've said rightfully on this discussion, majority of our private sector is on the small MSME side of things, actually without the little m, the micro, right? And in that case, how do we empower them? How do we make them capable to be able to leverage these areas? And I think that is where the test is going to be. 1, because there are many of them, but 2, also because informality is super high and even finding people becomes an issue. And then 3 is the discussion we're having around literacy. But there are ways around it. So let me just give you an example of what we're doing really on the micro side of things. So we have people who are, you know, poorest of the poor have been going on cash transfers for a while. And we used to give them cash transfers in cash. Like we literally have buses load of money and then we send it to poor people. They stand in line and take their money. And we'll do this every 2 months. First of all, it's the most unsafe thing to do ever, right? But then we made a decision to say by X date, we're moving away from this manual nonsense to electronic. And very quickly we got onto we're using the government systems, which is the Ghana, and I'll never say it right, Ghana Interpayment, GIPS, Ghana Interpayment something, sorry. And GIPS is really, so what we introduced to the beneficiaries were, first of all, a bank account. So very quickly they have a bank account for the first time in their lives. Very quickly they're using an ATM card, which they swipe, and then they use their biometrics to verify who they are. Now, all of these things on the back end help us for transparency, but more importantly to the beneficiary, it has introduced them into the financial market such that if they were going to, you know, do their own sales, they now have a new knowledge of what to do. Then we took it a step further. On our productive inclusion side of things, we are introducing these beneficiaries. It's the same people, right? And so we're saying you already have your eSwitch ATM card, you already have your bank account. Now let me give you training, life skills and business skills training for you to run your micro enterprise. And then let me give you mentoring in addition to the cash. So if you see, and I think Maelis made this point earlier on, which was around the discussion. I'm hearing myself, sorry, so if I pause. Maelis made this point around the value chain or the system. The system is important, right? Because if we only pick on the individuals and what they can do, then they really won't thrive. And so a piece over there also, and we haven't quite talked about this, but we're trying to do better, is connect them to the markets. And now we're saying the markets are more digital. So a next piece will be saying, beyond connecting you to the aggregator, how can I make your process digital, right? Even if you're a tabletop, you can have your little, what do you call it, that swipe machine for people to use, or mobile money. You know, you can, I mean, I'm so fascinated when I go to the coconut seller and they're okay with taking my mobile money, right? So what, 10 years ago, this would have just been a no-no. But the reality is we just need to push ourselves, decide that this is the direction we're going, and then work on the inclusivity. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Great, great. Christabel, you touched on a lot of stuff. And I want to quickly move to Kweku. So Kweku, on all this that we're talking about, let's just assume that we are finally able to digitize this informal or micro sector, and we have a digital commerce economy now. Does it end there, or is that just the tip of the iceberg? But let's say today we have 10 million businesses in Ghana, every woman in Makola, every woman in Kaneshie Market, in Lagos, now are all online. Does that solve a problem, or it opens a myriad of other problems that we have to now actually look at moving forward?
First of all, Kingsley, I love the painting of the picture. I mean, just visualizing where we're headed and where we hope to go, I think is really important for us to do. I mean, as you were painting that picture, clearly, you know, I see an opening up of possibilities, right? And essentially bringing the whole world of possibilities to each and every producer, marketer, anyone who's creating value. So, you know, to me, the reality is today, this is a huge window of opportunity for companies who really want to make a difference, to deliver us the right kinds of solutions. And by the way, just because people are connected, just because solutions are out there, doesn't mean that they're going to be used, that they have solved problems. Maybe they've created more problems. It's still a question of creating the right solutions, right? So today is really an opportunity to focus on how a company can deliver the right solutions, how a company can reach the people who need those solutions most. And then to your point, how those solutions can really create the kind of end state that we really want, to see. And so I think, you know, even with Catalyst Fund's program, Inclusive Digital Commerce, the focus is to find the companies that are ready to play and act seriously in this field. And really within this next month and 2 months, Catalyst Fund and MEST are all together trying to find those companies that are ready to come up to that. And what we're going to be looking for, in addition to being going concerns and being effective, is having some product that really has a potential of creating that picture that you just told us about, right? That everyone, regardless of maybe they're just starting out, maybe they're on a tabletop, but does that solution solve a problem, meet their need, and give them the kind of response or output that really makes a difference for them. With the picture that you painted, what has to happen is more and more of these micro enterprises will be connected to their marketplace. Their businesses will grow and begin to thrive, and they themselves as organizations will grow. They will start to they can't operate on a tabletop anymore. So then they've got to build, offices. They've got to build places to work. They've got to hire people. And by the way, the companies that are maybe medium and small companies that are providing these solutions, by the way, are also growing. So now they've got to be hiring more and more and more people. We've realistically, this is real, this has happened. We've seen other economies do it. Realistically, with this window of opportunity, right, we're going to focus on digital commerce as one of those areas that can really make a huge impact in jobs, in the economy, in the region, and in the country, and really in changing the lives of the individuals who now have access to ways to reach markets that they never could reach before. So I love your vision. I think that's absolutely where we should all be focused. And I think that all of the different programs we've heard about today really are taking us in that direction.
Thanks so much. So Henry.
Kingsley, can I add something quickly to that?
Sure, Maelis, sure, go ahead.
Great, and I completely agree with everything Kweku said, and I think that's exactly what's super exciting about this. So it's only the beginning of the potential of this sector to actually be applied in other spaces as well. So for me, it's also super interesting to think about what comes next. What about digital solutions in the agri sector as well? What about in the fisheries? Like all the other pillars of the economies that then digital commerce can enable and be, you know, a catalyzer basically of better outcomes for the businesses and then for the individuals. So one additional thing I'll say is that through this program, what we're trying to also do is learning about what it takes for these solutions to be truly powerful for the underserved, you know, informal, micro and small businesses. And also, what are the gaps? So when we're talking about, you know, is it a trust issue? Is it literacy? Like all of that, we'll be able to learn much more directly, working hand in hand with the innovators. And on the other side, also still continue to learn about what are the other areas of opportunity in the value chain. So for instance, last week I was at this conference by Disrupt Africa about logistics. And Obi Ozor, you know, the founder of Cobblah 360, were saying, well, the next third platform, a third wave of African tech revolution is actually in logistics, because you're still selling and buying physical things. And, you know, without basically something that transports those physical things, there's no commerce, right? And so logistics is also really a centerpiece of that commerce equation that investors and other stakeholders will need to focus on. So I think what digital commerce does give us the opportunity to is see the interconnectedness across the economy of all these areas and highlight the areas of opportunities for investors to focus on. And that, I think, would be my ask of everyone, like, and especially investors that think about this space, like think about it overall as a holistic picture. And then we can really create that change that you're talking about.
Great. So sorry if I'm quite passionate about this topic, because I actually run a retail tech startup and we go to this every day. So for me, it's a personal ambition, right? So sometimes I'll just do all this around it. But then back to Henry. So Henry, your platform, what I know you guys do is your platform is designed for people who are creating stuff locally in Africa, in Ghana. So it's more of local crowds, local Ghanaian things made in Ghana. So you are first of all looking at actually creating product and helping them offer that product up on an e-commerce or a digital commerce or a virtual commerce platform. Now, from your perspective, as the industry evolves, as all these stakeholders come together to grow this industry, what are your top 2 things you think we need to focus on based on your interaction with these retailers or these small manufacturers who are trying to get by making something that they can make money off?
Okay, all right. So I think that Kweku mentioned a few things which is very important. Connecting the right solutions to the right problems and making sure that the solutions that we're creating solves the right problems. I think that was one of the things that we tried to focus on, because we realized that people really wanted to sort of find an alternative to get their product moving however way, and so digital was sort of the option for them. But then you'd realize that does the solutions we're creating really provide the avenues for the people that are out there to use the solutions? And that's like very important for us in-house, where we're looking at the typical solutions we're providing. The second thing is data, which I think that has sort of been lost in sometimes the conversations we've had, because are we looking at the people and what they're doing connected to how it could be improved as against what they've already been doing, which is a norm to them? So is digital commerce coming in to improve what they're doing, or just to be an alternative for what they've already been used to? And so for us, it's one of the most important things we're also looking at improving, bringing together data. And so most of the times in our applications, we sort of been looking at data, fixing in big data algorithms into applications, just to make sure that we understand what is being bought, who is buying, where are they buying from, how frequent are they buying, is it a trend? I mean, we're looking at all this to understand and learn the patterns of the buyers as against what these the people, because at the end of the day, it comes back to products. These products are sitting in their houses, their warehouses, their shops, their house.
Or it looks like Henry's connection went off.
Does it get to the consumers? Do the consumers enjoy these products? That's the whole point. And so offline to online, that's
Sorry, it looks like Henry's connection went off a bit.
I think it's his audio.
Sorry, Henry, can you hear me? So Henry's connection a bit, so probably we'll come back to him. So final set of questions. Just show by if you can still hear me and see me, so I know I'm not talking to myself. I think for us to round this up, let's look at it. So I'm going to give everybody a minute to talk from your perspective. I mean,
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Terrible.
I want us to now look at like next key actions that we need to take. So I'm going to start from Maelis, since you are now introducing a fund designed to help people who are producing solutions that can go to the ecosystem. What do you think? Like, as we are going into this journey of accelerating companies who are bringing solutions like this, what are your top 3 KPIs you're looking at from these startups? Like, a startup wants to apply to Catalyst Fund now, claiming that they want to empower digital commerce. What are the top 3 things they need to check off? And how does that relate to growing the ecosystem in total?
Yeah, great question. So we have 8 criteria that we're going to look at across all the applicants. And I can run you through that, but obviously we'll also look at deeply at each business when we do the due diligence. But the 8 criteria, high level, are first, inclusivity. So companies have to already target the micro and small enterprise segment in Ghana, either directly or maybe enabling players that are reaching those informal MSCs. But that's a prerequisite, because, as I said earlier, we do want to make sure that we're scaling these businesses to reach 25,000 MSCs over 2 years. The second is a stage fit. So as Kweku said, we're looking at growth stage companies. So companies that already have a product in market, that are past the minimum viable product stage, right? And that are ready basically to take that forward and scale beyond product market fit, essentially. We're looking for traction, so a customer base of at least 1,000 registered micro and small enterprises already in their platform. And obviously we look on the definitions, like what is active users versus registered users, depending on the business models. Our geography, so they can be Ghana-based companies or Ghanaian companies, but not necessarily. So at least they're operational in Ghana. And they can offer solution, as I said earlier, across the value chain. So this value chain approach, it's really key. So it can be e-commerce platforms, it can be digital storefronts like KudiGo, as like yourselves. It can be stock management solutions, logistics, warehousing, so, or fintech offerings embedded into the digital commerce piece. So and then runway. So the company needs to have 6 months of runway as well, based on the current projections. So we don't look necessarily at revenue or funding raise, because we know that can vary so much, but at least a sense of stretching basically the operational abilities of the companies. Scale potential in terms of going down market into these to reach MSCs, and a focus on youth and women. So obviously, as part of the Mastercard Foundation Young Africa works, the objective is also to reach the youth entrepreneurs that are leading more of these micro and small enterprises, and we know that most of them are led by women. And so that's also as part of that objectives are creating better employment opportunities and facilitating the growth of youth and women-led enterprises. So that's high level. And then the process is that all companies can apply through our expression of interest form. So go to our website and we will look at those, and we work with actually a group of investors that form our investor advisor committee, and they will help us vet all the companies, and then we present them to the final sort of committee meeting to select 3 per cohort. So we'll have 6 companies in total, 3 per cohort. So that's a little bit of the process of what we look for.
Great. So guys, you heard it here first on Tech in Ghana. Much more detail on the Catalyst Funds program. So if you're a startup out there, this is your time to quickly reach out to the team and see how you can get involved. So Christabel, I mean, at the end of the day, what I always tell people is that the retail economy in Africa has direct social impact. It's not indirect, direct. But if you empower one female-owned business, you empower one market woman, instantly you are growing an entire family. From your perspective, as these startups evolve solutions around digital commerce, what are the things we should look at and never let go so that the social impact part of it is clearly entrenched in whatever we roll out in the market?
It really warms my heart hearing, some of these funds that are coming up, like the Catalyst of some of the things that MasterCard Foundation and others are doing. Because the reality is, for me, what keeps me up at night is the scale. How can we scale up? We talk about 25,000 and, or even on the bank side, we'll do productive inclusion for 40,000. 40,000 out of just 30 million alone, let alone looking at, big barriers. And yes, we will not reach every individual. And if not even every individual wants what we're doing. But at the same time, I think we really need to look at how we can take some of these ideas to scale, how we can beat the competitive mindset and work more collaboratively so that we can reach that woman that you mentioned who, with just a little bit, for what we are doing, we're giving $200 to an individual, and impact evaluations demonstrate to us the amount of impact that $200 made, Ghana's city equivalent of $200 made to her family. Kids are going to school. They're using more healthcare than they would in the past. And they're saving. And for me, one of the big ones is social cohesion, where now they can go to the community meetings and have a voice. You'll be surprised that people who are poor cannot even go and have discussions around decision making in their communities. And giving them some of these access helps them to do that. And so my encouragement, and I'm happy to hear what is going on. I'm happy to see a better focus on women and youth, particularly on the women's side of things, given that, in Ghana, for example, women are the majority when it comes to entrepreneurs. So there's something already there that you can boost, right? But at the same time, is for us to try and avoid duplications so that we can spread the word, and get to more people who need the help that we have. There's efforts to change from informality to formality. I'll be honest with you that I only partially agree with that agenda, because I'm not convinced that we can completely change every informal system to formal. And so the question becomes, how do we try and go head on at the informality and deal with that versus trying to change first to formality? Otherwise, we may, be behind the game. And so, my big thing is let's see how we can scale up our interventions by working together, by sharing ideas. And then another one also is telling our stories. We can do so much in our little corners, but it's important for us to highlight the success stories, because it's those success stories that will help to build more, that will bring the investors and make them interested in what is being done. And so if we can make a concerted effort to tell the stories of these MSMEs that are doing amazing things and help themselves, so to speak, to get better access to markets, to increase their capacity of hiring, because that's the other thing. We need to create jobs out of what we're doing. And those jobs will come from the people that we're helping directly if they're able to expand their markets. And so let's also take a look at that. And then just very finally, hone in on the literacy side of things. It couldn't be more important, however it is, from different angles. If it's even, helping somebody use the seeds within their system to count versus helping somebody use a calculator. I mean, we really have to look at the different aspects of the market, the different aspects of people and their capabilities, and reach them where they are. And then once we reach them where they are, we can help them boost up. Because for a lot of these people, you'll find that they just need a little bit of help and then they improve themselves. And so let's also try to just meet individuals at the point of their need and then mentor them to move forward. I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Great, Christabel. So David, I'm going to ask you to come in, but you can also answer one question that we have. So you are primarily focused on financial inclusion, helping people access the liquidity they need from various sources, mostly banks and MFIs and all that. Now, someone asked a question like, how can they leverage on digital commerce as a beginner or start up for their business? So today, if someone wants to start selling tomatoes, what do they need to know before they start selling tomatoes from a financial perspective? Like, what do they need to do now from the get-go so that 6 months from today, if they need 1,000 CDs, your institution can help them get that 1,000 CDs or they've done the right stuff?
Okay, that's a good question. So I'll say there are a couple ways you can go about this. Fundamentally, it's understanding your market, right? And so to my earlier point of having sort of an entrepreneurial mindset and approach to digital commerce. So if you want to sell tomatoes, it's good to understand, okay, where are people buying tomatoes? Where can I source tomatoes? Where can I get that? And, you know, pricing, right? What should I be pricing and all of that? So say you kind of have that understanding there. Then it's, as Henry spoke to, trying to identify the right tools for what you need, right? If your market is not where you are or close, as Kweku said, we're bridging distance and time now. If your market is going to be somewhere else or your most profitable market, then it's trying to identify the right digital tools that can help you to get there. Once you've done that, then it's down to your operations. Now, a lot of these financial institutions, whoever's giving you money wants to know that you can pay it back. And the way you do that is by showing traction, by showing what you've been able to do, So the moment you start buying and selling, recording that information becomes important, right? And it doesn't have to be a fancy sort of accounting type thing, just simple sales and expenses. And expenses are important. People forget about that, right? They always track their sales and they forget that they're paying electricity, they're paying, for the guy the KIA to send the thing across the market, things like that, right? It becomes important to make sure you're tracking all of these so that when you present yourself to some of these financial institutions, they can tell that you have the capacity to pay them back and when you'll be able to pay them back by. And to kind of build off an earlier point that Christabel raised, the sort of benefit of the digital platforms that are empowering digital commerce are that it allows you to kind of go around along this gradual path of formalizing. So I also agree in that not everything is going to get formalized, not everybody is going to get formalized, but there are very huge advantages, to being formalized. And what these digital platforms allow you to do is to kind of be gradual, right? You don't have to go from day one to day, being informal and then being formal. You can actually go through a path where you continue to make value, you continue to make revenue and all of that, where you're not fully formalized, but you're more formal than you were before. So, for example, and I think BFA did a study on this, people can start, you do start doing things on social media. The next thing, you're like, okay, social media is going well, I'm making sales. Maybe I have to get this license that allows me to open this little store here. You do that, or that you open a bank account because now you have to receive mobile money, right? To receive mobile money, I have to go get an ID. So you go get an ID. And along, as you do all these little incremental things, you become more formalized. So I'll say to the person who wants to be, have a successful tomato business, if you will, grow it, there's some fundamentals you have to do in terms of understanding the business that you're going into. But then also there's, you have to learn how to leverage these tools to slowly formalize yourself. And a great advantage of doing it this way is that you don't need to have all the capital in hand, right? To go get an ID card, to go get this, you don't need that much money, right? But it gives you some advantages. Selling on, on the KudiGo store, selling on Ahwenepa, you sign up, you put on there, the barrier is really low. And so as you kind of take advantage of this, you don't need a lot of capital to do that, but you have to be intentional about formalizing your business. Because once you sit in front of somebody who wants to give you, 5,000 and above, Ghana cedis, 10,000 and above, they're looking at, okay, can I KYC you? Because they have to do that. They have to be able to figure out that you are who you say you are and all of that. You need ID systems for that. Next, they're looking at the health of your business. And that comes back to the numbers you've been able to track about how well your business is doing. And sometimes people feel like you need a wildly successful business to get money. The thing is, these financiers can see a business that's probably not making revenue now, but they see the potential, right? And they see that you're working and that you're doing the right things. And that gives them enough confidence to say, we're going to give you this money for up to a year because we know you'll be able to bridge it. And if you look at what the government is doing with MBSSI and other funders, that's what they're doing, right? They're giving the space for people to really grow their business during, based on the difficulties that COVID brought. But if you're, the people who are getting those loans to are people who've already kind of established themselves in some ways. They have the data behind them. And so those have become very sort of important steps that, as a young person starting or as somebody who's starting a new business, you need to leverage, these technologies in the right way to kind of build the background that allows you to be more available to the financial services that are around.
Right. So thanks, David. So we are 10 minutes past our time. I mean, this conversation can go on for a whole day because there's so much we can talk about. So I'm just gonna pardon me, Henry and Kweku, because I'm being hounded that we're taking over the whole Tech Ghana conference. But I think overall, a lot has been shared on this conversation. And for anyone watching us right now, it's important to understand that Africa is the biggest thing in the world. Our economy is ripe for disruption. And you can do anything if you put your mind to it. And there are so many resources out there, whether it's from a software perspective, from a funding perspective. Just treat it as a business from the get-go. Retail is key. Digital commerce is the new thing. It includes in-store and e-commerce and whatever it is. At the end of the day, there are platforms available, there are frameworks available. Just focus, put your best foot forward, and trust me, a few years from today, we might have the next Walmart coming out of Africa, but we have the potential to do that and build that sort of resilience. So thanks to everyone. Thanks, Maelis. Thanks, Christabel. Thanks, David. Thanks, Henry. Thanks, Kweku. Thanks to all our viewers. And we'll see you some other time, probably somewhere else to discuss this. Maybe after COVID is actually gone, and maybe over coffee, because Maelis will be paying. All right, guys.
That's right. Coffee on me.
Have a good one.
All right.
Thanks for
Thank you. Bye.
Great. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Have a good day.